afternoon, everybody. My name is Angela. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some things that we do out here in the West on our ranch. This is Western Week, and the theme is perseverance. So we're going to kind of go over a few of those things. These are my two boys with me. This is Pippin, doing what he loves, eating things. And this is Ryder. Where's your ball? Go get your ball. Go find your ball. And that's what they're just hanging out with me for today. All right, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna talk a little bit about things that happen on a ranch, a cowboy's equipment, a horse's equipment, which we call tack, why those things are important, and how in the world that might pertain to perseverance. Hi, buddy. So we're gonna start with the horse tack, and then we'll move to the cowboy's clothes and why those things are important, even why we would have a dog. We're going to start with our saddle. We don't have a horse for today. That might be something we'll do tomorrow, but for right now we're going to go over what the horse would have to wear. Now, what is a cowboy? Well, a cowboy is somebody who works with cattle. From horseback or on the ground, but typically within that area and on a ranch. There are cattlemen who work with horses sometimes, and then there are cattlemen who work only with cows, and they work with them in feedlots, in dairy farms, things like that. But a cowboy is known for a few things. They're known for their horse, they're known for their hat and their clothes, and they're known for the job that they do, which was herding and taking care of cattle and horses. Okay, so we're going to start from the very, very bare minimum, very beginning, and then go from there. All right, so a cowboy, when riding his horse, would want to make sure that his horse was comfortable. All right, it wouldn't be very fun putting that saddle straight on that horse's back. The saddle usually is made out of a wooden tree. A tree is like the skeleton of the saddle. It's made out of a wooden tree. Nowadays they can be made out of fiberglass or sometimes even metal, but usually traditionally it's a wooden tree out of oak or something like that. A liner, like a sheepskin or felt liner, and then the leather. All right, and that can all get pretty heavy. This saddle right here probably weighs 25 to 30 pounds. About as much as Ryder weighs. So it can get pretty heavy, and the more stuff you put on it, the heavier it gets. So one thing about perseverance is overcoming difficulties and obstacles. You have to get pretty strong to throw this saddle on your horse. We'll get to that later. But because that saddle is heavy, and because it's made out of a wooden tree and leather and things, we want to protect our horse's back. If the horse doesn't have a strong, healthy back, your horse isn't going to be able to do his job for you. So for me personally, not everybody does this, not every cowboy or horse person does this, but for me personally, I put a nice thick wool blanket on the horse's back first. After I've brushed my horse down, made sure there's no extra dirt, no brambles, no snares, no mud, no things like that that could make it uncomfortable, I put a nice thick blanket on him. That just helps cushion everything. And then I put a nice medium thickness saddle pad on him. This one's kind of not a thin pad, but a thinner pad. I have thicker ones and thinner ones, but a nice medium pad with a thick blanket is usually enough. And I put that on top of the blanket as an extra cushion. Horses have different shapes and sizes and things like that, and having the blanket and the pad can help fit in those different shapes and sizes. Well, let's talk about the saddle. First off, we're going to start at the front here and work our way to the back. What is this weird thing sticking up out of the front of the saddle? Well, we call this the saddle horn, okay? Now, it doesn't beep. It's not like a car horn. And it's not just a handle for you to hold on to. That saddle horn was developed over years and years and centuries to do a couple of jobs. It's to carry things for the cowboy or hold things for the cowboy. So you could loop a canteen on it, you could put a snack bag on it, but what it was primarily used for is we're out roping cattle, you know, your average cow weighs, well, a full-grown cow or bull can weigh over 1,000 pounds. Typically, you'd only rope the smaller ones if you could help it. But even those smaller ones can weigh, you know, a couple hundred to 600, 800 pounds. And your little arm, no matter how strong you are, isn't going to hold that when it's running away from you. So, this saddle horn was designed that after you roped your cow, you could do what we call a dally off, and you hold on with that saddle horn, and then your horse's body weight would help pull that cow to a stop. We'll go over that rope here in just a second, okay? So the saddle horn, super important. This is the pommel. They always come in a little bit different shape, but this is the pommel. It's the front of your saddle. Underneath, this is the gullet. You always want to make sure you know where your gullet is when you're putting it on your horse's back so it doesn't rub your horse raw right there. We're going to go over a few other things here. Pretty easy, pretty simple. We've got our seat. This is where you sit. Alright, pretty simple. I have a nice cushion on my seat, makes the ride a little bit easier. So that's your saddle horn, your pommel, your gullet, your seat. Right back here, this is the cantle. And there are different shapes of the cantle. I like a nice roll back, what we call a Cheyenne roll. Makes it a little bit easier for me to ride. We have a seat jockey. So saddle horn, pommel, gullet, seat, cantle, seat jockey. Okay? I don't know why it's called a seat jockey, but it is. Underneath all of that, you have skirting. I have kind of what you call a double skirting, but you have skirting. This is what supports the saddle and make sure it doesn't pinch the horse too much in one spot. So the skirt, or the saddle skirt, is very important. It goes all the way around the saddle. Then you have a very important piece especially when you're learning how to ride. This is the stirrup. This piece right here is actually called the stirrup. They can be made out of plastic, metal, or wood. Mine is wood with leather wrapped around it. This is the fender. Okay, fender. This protects you from the horse and the horse from you, and you don't get all nasty and sweaty as much. So that's your fender and your stirrup. Let's go over those again. Saddle horn, gullet, saddle horn, pommel, gullet, seat, cantle, seat jockey, saddle skirt, stirrup, and fender. Okay? Those are all super important things. Way back in the 1800s, you would have people who were saddle makers, but sometimes you would have to do some of those repairs on yourself if you couldn't get to where the saddle maker lived. So you would have to know how to take apart your saddle, put it back together, and a whole lot of other stuff. Okay, now we're going to go over a few more things. Some of these things are optional. Not everybody rides with these. For instance, this is what we call a breast collar. It goes across the front of the saddle. It goes across the horse's chest. Now, not every cowboy, not every horse person rides with a breast collar. So why do I have one? I have a breast collar because I go up and down mountains and I ride lots of different shapes and sizes of my horses. So that breast collar makes sure my saddle doesn't slip too far back, and it just helps keep the saddle where it's supposed to be. Okay? The next thing we have, we're gonna, like I said, we're moving back to front, or front to back. Sorry guys, I'm excited about it and I get all tangled up. This is called the cinch. Now this is a super, super important piece. Every saddle has to have this. This is a cinch. This is a roper cinch. It's made out of cotton thread and leather with metal buckles. This is what keeps your saddle on the horse. So it goes under the horse, across like his rib cage, under his belly and his rib cage, and it loops to the other side. That's what keeps your saddle on. If you didn't have this, you might be in trouble. Or if it was loose or too tight. So this leather piece here, this is called a back cinch. Not everybody rides with the back cinch. So why do I ride with the back cinch? Well, because I ride different shapes and sizes and I go up and down hills. It keeps my saddle from going too far up or forward. So that's my back cinch. Let's go over those again. or just cinch, back cinch. Okay? Those are your basics. We have some more. There's a lot of things to remember, but it's good to know all of it. So we have these saddle strings out here. And these saddle strings are nice because you can tie things to it. I like to tie a coat or something else that I might need, like my rope goes up here with my saddle strings. Not every saddle needs it, not every saddle has it, but I do. I have some saddle bags. Now, not everybody needs saddlebags. Not everybody likes them in the back. Some people like them in the front. I like mine in the back if I can help it. And in my saddlebag, I live out in the desert, so I carry lots of water. I carry a first aid kit. I carry like sunscreen or things like that, because you never know what you're going to run into out in the desert. Sometimes I'll carry like a slingshot or a collapsible baton, because guess what we have out here? We have rattlesnakes. And that's a good way to get the rattlesnakes out of your way, is to have that long baton or a slingshot if you're a good shot. That'll get them out of the way. Okay? So those are my saddlebags. Nice to have when you need to pick something up. On this side, and I know you guys can't see it super well, but we're going to show it to you this way and not get too concerned about all that. This is called a latigo, or a long latigo. When you bring that cinch around under the horse's belly, the latigo on the other side runs through the cinch buckle, and that's what keeps the saddle nice and tight. So it's very important to have a nice, good latigo. If your latigo is frayed, or if you have a leather one that's cracked, not a good thing. All right, that was a whole lot, and we went really fast. But we have a lot more to show you, so we have to keep going, okay? Now, I said my saddle strings would be nice to carry some things on my saddle, some equipment, things I might need. We talked about putting supplies like snacks or first aid kit or flensing pliers or things like that in my saddlebags. Another thing I would probably tie to my saddle is my lariat. Now, cowboys are very, very famous for their lariat, all right? This is something that a cowboy could use for his job, but also when he was off his job and just playing around. They would have roping competitions to see who could rope the most accurately, or they would try and rope each other, or they'd try and rope a chicken, just different things to entertain themselves. So the lariat, or the lasso, would go everywhere with that cowboy, and it would typically hang out right here on the right hand side, because most people are right-handed, but up here in the front where they could get a hold of it. Okay, so that is your lariat, or your lasso. Now, something very interesting, not everybody carries, especially out here in the West, they prefer their lariat and their lasso, but something special to Florida, and I bet you guys didn't know this, Florida is the where cowboying started. Now, they don't like to be called cowboys necessarily, they like to be called cattlemen, but they also used to be called crackers. Now, that sounds a little silly. Why are they named a cracker? Well, that's because they would carry a stock whip or a bull whip, and that whip would go like that, and it would crack, and they could hear it for a long, long way away. So they were called the crackers because they would crack their whips. Did I scare you? I'm sorry. It's kind of loud sometimes. But Florida has one of the earliest horse and cattle cultures in the U.S. When the Spanish brought horses and cows to the New World, they brought them to Cuba and to Florida and to Mexico. And from there, that's where ranching took off in the United States. So, a little bit of interesting Florida history, that you would use a whip. We could keep going with that. There's a lot of interesting history. They didn't use the rope as much because their horses were smaller. They were called cracker horses or marsh tackies. Their horses were a little bit smaller, and they couldn't hold those big cows. The horses were meant to be walking through the swamps and chasing the cows that way, not necessarily being big and bulky like a quarter horse. But lots of interesting history there that you could look up, or feel free to message or ask your counselor. They can get a hold of me, that kind of thing. Okay? So that's a lot of the saddle on the horse, we have to go catch the horse. In some outfits, they'll use their lariat and they'll go out into the pen and they'll throw their rope and they'll catch their horse with a loop they call the hula hand. And then they'll bring their horse in that way. I'm not very good at doing a hula hand, so I use a halter and I go out there and I catch my horse with the halter. Now this is a simple rope halter, it's not anything fancy. There are nylon, there's leather, there's all kinds of different types of halters. So this would slip over your horse's nose, it would come behind your horse's ears, and then I would tie it right here so it kind of looks like this. And then I would use my lead rope, kind of like you use a leash on a dog, and that's kind of, for lack of a better term, that's your leash for your dog or your horse. But that's called a halter. Now, some people prefer not to ride with a halter under their bridle and things like that. In my job, I get off and on a lot. I'm helping a lot of people learning how to ride. So having my halter where I can quickly tie up my horse is a good thing. If I'm just riding my own horse, I usually don't use it because it's just one more thing to keep track of. Now, some horses in the world are super cool and they can be ridden in just a halter or what we call a hackamore or without any of that. But most horses need a little bit of help and direction when you want them to go somewhere. So we use what we call a bridle. Now this is a snaffle bridle. I have several others, but we're going to just focus on this, okay? So the whole thing together is called a bridle. When you take it away piece by piece, this is the head stall. Pretty easy, it goes on the horse's head. All right, so this is the head stall. It goes over and behind the horse's ears. This one has a little ear loop, so it goes over one ear. It's just a piece of style for that. This is your cheek piece, your crown, and your ear loop. But all together, this is called the head stall. This piece right now, right here, this is a piece of metal, or several little pieces of metal put together. This is called a bit. And this goes in the horse's mouth. And this is kind of what you use to direct your horse, to slow him down, to turn left, to turn right, to let him go forward. This is called the bit, all right? Now there's different shapes and sizes of bits. It all depends on what your horse likes. Just like you might like sneakers or flip-flops or something like that. Everybody likes something a little different. A lot of horses like a different type of bit. This is called a curb strap or curb chain. Now on a snaffle bit, we don't have to have it. On a different type of bit, you do have to have it, but I like to have it because it keeps my bit in place in the horse's mouth, and that just makes it easier. So, head stall, bit, curb chain or curb strap, and the reins. All right, these are kind of important because you can put this on the horse, but if you don't have your reins, you can't really turn left and right very easily. Western horses are typically trained in what we call a neck rein, which means you put pressure on their neck with the rein and they turn. So having these, which are called split reins, they split up, those we use that to teach the horse how to neck rein, okay? So let's go over everything again. You've got your saddle, lots of pieces to the saddle, you have your halter, and you have your bridle. These are all things that a cowboy would use back in the 1800s and today to catch the horse, to ride the horse, things like that. The lariat and the bullwhip or stock whip were tools that the cowboy would use along with whatever they might put in their saddlebags. Let's talk about the cowboy's appearance. I wear a big 5-inch brim hat. This is a palm leaf hat. So it's made out of palm leaves. This is my summer hat. I have a winter hat that's made out of felt. It's much warmer and I like to use that in the winter time. But in the summer, because I live in the desert where it gets to 110 and 115 degrees, it's really hot. I like to have the big brim with the shade, and the palm leaf is a little bit cooler. Okay? Yes, sunscreen is important, but the hat is super important, especially in the desert too. I like to have sunglasses because it's super bright, and I like to wear my sunglasses to protect my eyes from the reflective sand and from the sun and things like that. Let's keep moving down. I carry or wear, in the summertime especially, what we call a bandana or a wild rag. Okay? okay? Now this one is a simple bandana, a cotton bandana that you can get at Walmart. Not super expensive, not, you know, nothing special. But in the summertime out here, it keeps me from getting burned. I can use it to block the dust that happens out here. And there's a lot of dust out here in the desert. So I use that to protect my face from the sun, from the wind, from the dust. And I can use it to soak the rag, or soak the wild rag in like cold or cool water and put it on, and it will cool my body down if I get too hot. Now in the winter time, I like to use a silk one. Silk is much warmer. This is a real wild rag. You can see it's huge. It's a big one, and you can get different sizes. But this would go around kind of like a scarf and do the same thing, except you wouldn't really soak it in the winter time. It just keeps your neck warm, okay? So that would be the wild rag. I like to carry and wear one because you never know. These big long ones, you can make a sling out of them for your arm if you got hurt. Keep going down. I like to wear a vest. Not every cowboy and cowgirl likes to wear a vest, and you don't have to. And especially this time of year where it's hot, you know what? You may not want to. But I carry a lot of things in my pockets. I carry medicine for horses. I carry pens, knives, all kinds of different things in my pockets. So I like having the pockets in the vest. If I'm cold, the vest is a nice layer to keep on, and I put more layers on, but it's a nice center layer that keeps you warm. In the summertime, if I get hot, I can always take the vest off. Then we talk about long sleeves. You know, I said we were living in the desert and it gets to well over 100 degrees. So why am I wearing long sleeves? Well, I'll tell you, I live in the desert and the sun is very strong. I don't want to get sunburned. And sometimes I don't have time, or I don't remember to put sunscreen on. So I wear the long sleeves to protect me from the sun. The wind out here gets really, really strong, so it protects me from the wind. And we have a lot of cactus out here, so it helps protect me from the cactus and the brush and the sticky things out here. And then the hay is very, very stick-like. It has lots of sharp pieces to it, and some people are actually allergic to hay, so it helps keep me protected from all of that kind of stuff. It keeps me cooler because I'm not getting my skin burned, so I can cool down quicker. And if I do get too hot, I can roll my sleeves up. All right, next thing, talking about doing hay or doing fence or working a horse or anything. Gloves. You always want to have a pair of gloves nearby. You never know what you might need them for. Picking up rocks, building a fence line with wire, picking up a hay bale, all kinds of things that you want a pair of gloves for. I like to carry mine with me pretty much everywhere I go. Keep going down. You always want to have a knife on hand. You can have a small one, you can have a big one, you can have a folding knife, you can have a fixed blade, whatever, but you always want to have a knife on hand. You go, well, Miss Angela, why do you need a knife? Lots of reasons. The basic reason is to cut the strings on your hay bales. That would be a very basic reason. But sometimes things get caught in your horse's tail or their mane, or something happens out on the trail and you need your knife to like pick cactus out, all kinds of things. So you always want to have a knife on hand, okay? You can keep one in your saddlebag, but I like to keep it on my person if I can. I wear a nice big thick belt. Not everybody has to wear a belt. Some people wear suspenders, some people don't wear a belt at all. But I like to wear everything on a belt so I can put my radio, I can put my phone, I can clip all kinds of things to my belt, and it keeps your pants up, which is nice. But I like to wear a belt. Now, one thing cowboys used to love to do, and they still do today, is they used to like to decorate their belt. It kept them entertained, but it also showed everybody, this is my belt. You know, you could put a name or a design or something like that on it that would say, this is my belt, don't take my belt. Okay? Then jeans. We're going to go down, and we always want to wear long pants, long jeans to protect our legs from everything that goes on out there. You can get yourself pinched in the saddle. You can do all kinds of things. So long jeans, super important. I forgot them again. 1 second. Doggy. Hello. Hello, big doggy. Hello. Look out. right, so we talked about our jeans. Next thing we're going to talk about are the boots. I'm wearing what I call my walking boots. That is easier for me to walk around in. These are my riding boots. They're very, very pink. Now, the riding boot, and everybody has a different design that they like, but the riding boot is super important because it keeps your foot safe in the stirrup. If you're riding around in just sneakers or like ballet flats or something like that that doesn't have a heel, you can get your foot stuck in there. You don't have it in a good spot. But the cowboy boot has a nice heel on it where when you ride, you don't get your foot stuck in the stirrup. It allows you to ride better. Some have a different type of heel. This is a roper heel. This is what I prefer. It has a tall upper part to it. Some are even taller, but this one's kind of just a short, easy one to put on. And it has a nice thick tread to it when you need it. Now you'll notice something different on this boot than on like my walking boot. I have a pair of spurs on my boots. And I use those spurs just like I use the bit to direct my horse, to tell him to turn, to tell him to speed up, all that kind of stuff. So that spur just helps me direct my horse. You might say, well, Miss Angela, doesn't that hurt the horse? And I'll tell you what, if you use your equipment the wrong way, even your lasso, even your reins, even your bit, even your halter, even your saddle, if you use them the wrong way, they can hurt your horse. If I use my spur the wrong way, it can hurt my horse. So I'm very, very careful about what I'm doing with my spur. These are very short, dull spurs. They don't hurt the horse. For a fact, horses on average weigh 1,000 pounds, some a little over, some a little under, but they weigh 1,000 pounds. And they like to kick and bite each other for fun. So my little legs with my little pokey spurs aren't going to hurt them too much. But again, we're still being good stewards of our horses and we're not going to hurt them. Okay, now I talked about protecting our legs and everything. These are called chinks. Okay, there are chinks, there are chaps, there's armitas, there's all kinds of different styles. These are chinks. They are short because out here in the desert it's hot, so I like to keep them short so that I can get a little airflow. But these come through and they wrap around the leg to protect the leg from the cactus, from the thorns, from all kinds of stuff. And the leather, when it rubs against the leather of the saddle, helps kind of make you a little bit stickier, helps you keep in the saddle a little bit more, all right? Now I put Bible verses on these chinks because I made them. And these Bible verses are Joshua 1:8 and Isaiah 26:3 and 4, okay? You guys should look those up later on. But basically, Isaiah 26:3 and 4 says, I will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on me because he trusts in me. There's more to it, but that's kind of the short version. And I love that verse because it says to me, whenever I seek God, whenever I choose to trust in God and follow his word, I will have peace. Not only will I have peace, God will keep me in peace. Even if the situation's difficult, even if it requires a lot of perseverance and I'm not sure I can do it, I will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on me. All right? So I like to have that verse here. And then Joshua 1:8 says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and thou shalt have good success. And it keeps going, and it says, be not afraid, be of good courage. The Lord thy God is with you. Keep reading those passages. There's a lot of really good information in those passages. But I like to carry them, and I wear them on my chinks. So when people ask me, hey, what does your chink? What does that mean on your chinks? Then I get to explain to them that I get to believe in God, who will give me peace regardless of the situation I'm in. All right, so those are chinks. Again, a nice and very important part of working out here in the desert or anywhere. Keeps you safe, and if you wore like the longer ones, keeps you warm in the wintertime. Okay, another piece of equipment. This is called a duster. This was originally designed in Australia. In the West, we called them slickers, and they were usually kind of yellow, kind of made out of a canvas material. But we call this a duster. And when it gets windy or cold or rainy, we put our duster on and it buttons up and it keeps us protected from the elements. It has a little strap that comes around that keeps it around your legs, so when you get on your horse it stays where it's supposed to. But this is called the duster. They're different colors and all that kind of stuff, duster or slicker. But I like to use mine, especially when it's cold and rainy, because it keeps me from getting soaked through. Now, sometimes you don't want to wear your duster. Maybe it's too long, maybe it's too heavy. You could just wear a simple coat. All of that is totally fine. We're getting a little bit towards our 30-minute mark, maybe a little over, but I want to talk to you a little bit about perseverance, okay? I would love to show you some horses and show you what we mean with perseverance. They're all out eating some dinner right now, so we'll explain a little bit more in another video maybe. So your definition of perseverance means proceeding forward toward a designated goal while facing challenges. And your I will say, I will press toward my goal. I will overcome obstacles. I will maintain focus. I will finish the job. Those are super, super important things. And a cowboy had to have those. Not just cowboys. Anybody who moved out to the West. You guys are in Western Week right now. Super, super incredible stories of people persevering through bad weather, droughts and snowstorms and floods, and not really knowing where they were going to end up, but they had a goal. They said, I'm coming out west to start a new life, or I'm coming out west to be a cowboy, or I'm coming out west to make myself something new, or to start a new business. And it's not easy. You know, here in modern day times, we get a lot of things that we take for granted because those people way back when chose to persevere through challenges and make the success that we have today. Now I want to show you some perseverance here really quick, and the reason I brought Ryder along with me. Ryder, ball. Your ball. Okay. So this is Ryder. Okay? Sit. Ryder loves his tennis ball. Absolutely loves it. Watch. Whee! Follows that ball everywhere. Ryder's perseverance towards getting the ball has overcome all kinds of things. This dog has run through cactus, he's jumped over walls, he's done all kinds of stuff that shows his perseverance towards getting his goal, the ball. Sit. Good boy. Alright, so I want you guys to see just how focused, which is one of your I wills, I will stay focused on my goals, this dog is. Can't even, whoop, he's on it, alright? This is a dog that shows perseverance. Ryder, catch, whoop, almost. But even though he missed it, even though he failed, he didn't say, aw man, I missed the ball, I guess I give up now. No, he went after it, and he didn't just, oh, I gotta go get the ball now. He ran after that ball as hard and fast as he could till he caught it. That's perseverance. Even if you fail, even if you make a mistake, even if that goal looks like it's running away from you, you're gonna persevere and you're gonna get that ball. Let's see if he can catch it again. Come here. Sit. Catch. Oh, yeah, he caught it on the rebound. So he didn't catch it on the first time, but he stayed focused on that goal and he caught it. So what would that look like for a cowboy? Well, I'll tell you what. I get up right now in the summertime, I get up around 4:30 in the morning. That's really early. I don't like getting up that early. But I choose to persevere and get up every morning and go to my job and take care of those horses. I help take care of over 100 horses, okay? That's a lot to keep track of. But I get up every morning at 4:30 in the morning and I take care of my dogs and I go out and I help take care of the horses and I take people out on rides because I love to do it. It's fun. But there are days when it's windy, when it's cold, when it's rainy, when you're slogging through the mud, when you get stepped on by a horse, when you have just things not going the right way for you. You could either say, well, I quit, that's it, I'm done, this isn't the place for me, or you can persevere and keep going, and you can fix the problems and find out that the next day may be better because you chose to persevere today. For a cowboy, that might look like being out there in the mountains, chasing a cow that does not want to be caught, and crashing through brush, and going over rocks, and getting sore and hot and thirsty and tired, but not giving up till he's brought that cow home, okay? It might look like fixing a fence. Fences are super important. If you don't have your fence, then your animals are everywhere. And fence building is not fun. You have to dig that hole, you have to put the post in, you have to make sure the post is straight, you have to string your wire, make sure the wire's straight, not too tight, not too loose, all kinds of things. Perseverance, overcoming obstacles, pressing towards that goal. What that looks like for me, I have a horse right now that I'm helping get rehabilitated. He had some illness and stuff like that, so he's getting back in shape. He was pretty scared of being handled. He had had a lot of medical procedures and he didn't like being handled. Patience and perseverance have now helped that horse be friendly towards people in a way he wasn't before. We're still got a lot of things to work on, but I can ride him. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal for a horse that's a prey animal to accept and trust something or someone who's not like them, okay? Perseverance looks like a horse who's afraid, like my horse. He's kind of a fearful horse. He's afraid, but he chooses to persevere through his fear and trust me as his rider and his trainer that my goal and his goal will be achieved if we work together and we persevere through the fear and being out of shape and things like that. What that looks like for me, I have an injury that I'll have for the rest of my life. I could have just given up, and I have given up before, and said, you know what, clearly this is not meant to be. I can't do this job anymore. But God put this love in my heart and put me in this place to do this job. And so perseverance is taking that pain, acknowledging that pain, and learning how to either deal with it or fix it and keep going despite the difficulties, despite all the setbacks, and understanding that there are some things I can't do the same way anymore, but that doesn't mean I can give up. I keep going. So perseverance way in the West meant they were traveling to land they didn't know about, and they chose to pursue their dreams and make them happen. Lots of really cool stories about that. Super, super cool historical figures. Kit Carson, Daniel Boone, all that kind of stuff. You'll actually get to hear a little bit about them probably in your Exploring Inventor Week. But thank you for taking a little time to listen to what I have to share. Maybe I'll be able to make another video for you guys and you get to see what all this stuff looks like when it's on a horse. That would be super cool, and we'll try and make that happen for you, okay? All right, Ryder, let's see if you can catch it one more time. No? We'll keep practicing. That's perseverance there. All right, guys. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask your counselors. They can message me, anything like that. And we'll go from there. All right. You guys have an awesome day, okay? GoPro off. GoPro stop recording.